for being with us today. And you are Belange, and you are a fashion designer and educator.
Yes.
Can you-
First of all, thank you so much for having me as well. It's really an honor. And yeah, I'm an educator, fashion designer, and also researcher.
Research?
Yeah.
So I think you were one of the first people I've met who said, so you research fashion or fashion media?
Fashion design, fashion entrepreneurship, fashion merchandising, pretty much anything related to fashion design. I'm doing a PhD right now.
Oh,
So I've
here I
been-
was thinking you're a master's student. No, please continue.
Yeah, I got my master's in 2022 and I started my PhD at ISU in 2024. So I've been growing my research portfolio. I also teach here in the fashion design and merchandising program. I teach undergrad students. And I also have a small business that I've been running for the last 12 years. And I design, I create, I also do marketing, branding, web design, a lot of things, and even ghost design also under that brand. So I do a lot of things.
Ghost design?
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
It's like a ghost writer, but a ghost designer.
So you design for brands, and then they take your design, pay you.
Yes. I started that in 2023. I got a partnership with Shein under my brand, and I also started designing for other designer under the same program. So that's when I started doing ghost design. I honestly didn't even know that was a thing until I started. So yeah, I've been designing for other designers as well.
See, you continue to educate because I had no idea that was even a market. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
It is a pretty big market for design or pattern making, marketing, so forth. But like that particularly ghost design, I found out about it 2023 when I started. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. And you said you run a small side business where you design, or is it a shop online, or is it an in-person shop?
It's an e-commerce. I started in the Congo, back in my home country. It was a hobby that just came out of nowhere. Then I turned that into a full-time business when I moved here. So I came here to study fashion design and then continue growing my brand. Then in 2021, I moved to California from Iowa. I wanted to expand my company, so I hired employees. I had a big team, and I transitioned from custom clothing to ready-to-wear. And then 2022, when I went to grad school, I took a break. That year, I also became a mom. And then the year after is when I got my partnership with Shein. So I went back to ready-to-wear. And I haven't done custom clothing in a while, but ready-to-wear is where I feel like I'm comfortable at this moment in my career. So it's online. When I have in-person interactions with my consumers, it will be through fashion shows or pop-up shops, but I hope one day I'll have a physical store, but it might not happen anytime soon because I'm still working on my PhD. So, and that takes a lot of time. Research takes a lot of time. So the business has been kind of pushed to the side for the moment, but yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That honestly, I've never heard of that like route, I guess, or that roadmap in a career. That very unique. I like that. I really do.
Thank you so much.
I'm just like listening to you talk, and I'm going, I didn't even know you could do that. Because to me, I feel like most people who want to be designers are told, here's how you get there. And then they never kind of deviate from that path.
And that's
right?
the biggest misconception about fashion design, even amongst fashion students. When I teach, generally when I start, on the first day of class, I ask my student what they want to do after graduating. Everybody would say, I want to be a fashion designer and own my company. And I follow up with, what if that doesn't work? Do you have a plan B? Because not all of us will be Gucci. We will not always be Chanel. So what are other options? So many students don't know that you have many options in the fashion industry. You can do pattern making, you can be a dressmaker, you can do fashion marketing, you can do fashion branding, fashion communication. And I try to expose my students to all these things, and I give them my own example. And that's something that I love about my career. It was not linear. I did a lot of things, and I give them examples of things they can do. And I always advise them to look into any skills that they have that can be turned into a business, because that's the reality of the fashion industry. You don't just end up being a designer. You'll be doing a lot of things. And with my example, as somebody who owns a small business, I play multiple roles in the company. So I'm not just the designer, I'm also the marketer, I do branding, I do all the negotiation with the manufacturer. So I had to learn all these things, which means I'm like pretty much playing many roles in the company. So I also try to tell my student that. And for people who are not in the industry, when they hear fashion design or fashion education, yeah, they think, oh yeah, she's going to be or he's going to be a fashion designer, but that's not always the case. You can also be a model after studying fashion design. So there's a lot of things you can do in the fashion industry and even research. So now I'm doing research in fashion design. So
it's crazy because I was just asking the last person that what do you research, and how does that research point you to a new direction of designing? How do those two things even work together?
So for me right now, I have multiple areas of research interest. So the first one is fashion entrepreneurship, and then consumer behavior in e-commerce, because I've been running in e-commerce for a long time and I always like to understand how people navigate that. The third one is social sustainability. Again, I always think about ways the fashion industry can be more responsible. And right now, it's the integration of AI in fashion education. Now, within that, what I chose to focus on for my dissertation was fashion entrepreneurship. And my study is about how university-based entrepreneurial ecosystem serve non-business students. Oh. So I came from a non-business degree, but I had business interest. I had to learn pretty much the business side of fashion outside of my degree because we don't teach business in the fashion programs. So when I started thinking about my PhD, I thought about research that could really be meaningful because I didn't just want to do random research. So I was like, okay, I'm going to look into my own pain points throughout my career and see something that I can pick up that is a common pain point for many other people like me. And through conversations with my peers, many people that I graduated with, they started their small businesses. Some businesses succeeded and some did not. And for those who didn't succeed, I asked them why. And they said I didn't have the business education that required me to, start, scale, and sustain a business. I was like, okay. So I started looking at, okay, what is the state of entrepreneurship education overall? I looked at that. I saw that it's not equal because when you're a business student, you learn a lot, obviously. But when you come from a non-business degree, some people don't learn any business at all. So what universities have done to try to bridge that gap was to create different programs. And those programs, they form an ecosystem. Now, those programs initially were created for business students. And then when universities started seeing that, oh, actually we have many students from other programs that are ending up opening businesses. How about we open them to everybody? So now these programs are open to everybody. But now what I'm looking at is the structure still catered to business students, or has it been restructured to cater to all students? Because students from different disciplines have different needs. So that's what my study is about right now. So now, initially when I started, I wanted to do specifically fashion students, but I felt like my sample was too small. And the impact that this study would have was too big to limit myself to a small sample. So I decided to expand to creative fields. But then when I started taking research courses with students from other majors, I met some students from College of Education. They talked about how they wanted to start daycares, engineers that had products, but they didn't know how to commercialize, and everybody had the same problem. They needed to study business. So some students expressed how they've been part into these programs. And for me, the only experience that I've had in the ecosystem here at ISU was doing the one-time pitch competition. I did get some funding. I never did the long-term program. So I was like, okay, I want to understand how these students then experience and navigate these long-term programs. And then from there, we'll see what emerges. And maybe there'll be some suggestion that my study can give to universities to see how they can maybe better tailor these programs. So that is how my study started, very focused on design. But then I see that there is a bigger problem. It's not just unique to fashion design. So even as a fashion designer, I feel like my study can really contribute a lot to entrepreneurship education overall and beyond my field. So, yeah.
No, you definitely are filling a gap.
Yeah.
You identified a pain point. and now you're gonna be that person to gauge that gap, right? That's amazing.
you.
Honestly, you were right to use your own journey to kind of identify these areas of need, and then to kind of go off of that, you also went and kind of interviewed, and you know, looked at what other students needed as well, that were not only in the fashion niche, they were in different industries.
Yeah.
I commend you for your work.
Thank you so much. It took me 2 years to get to that point. Like, I'm actually surprised that I'm able to properly articulate the whole study now, but it took me a long time just to look, because I had to read so many research papers just to see, okay, what is the state of this entrepreneurship education? Okay, then I'm seeing a gap. The education is not equitable. Okay, so incubators, accelerators, innovation labs, I had to read all that and then see, oh, there's still a problem. Okay, now what do the participants say? Now, this is where the gap is even bigger, because there's not a lot of studies that where students themselves describe their experience. I was like, okay, I feel like this is what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to let students explain their own stories, and then we see if we can find any patterns that are similar across different disciplines, and then come up with my own explanatory framework. And then maybe universities can use that framework then to redesign their programs if necessary, or just make small adjustments here and there.
I hope you put your name on everything. Put a watermark on everything so they know it was you. I did it. Because it's yes, it's great. You are contributing. You're doing everything that you can to identify the needs of the students and people who are pursuing businesses in their professional niche. But it's a great way to make sure that you yourself are recognized for your hard work. No one's going to patent off an idea without their name attached. And I think it's great that you are pitching it here to us, to this audience, to then, you know, gain that that new audience or that following of people who are like, yeah, we have identified the same issue, but I'm happy to know someone is working on it. This is not just something that's going to be glossed over. Yeah. Because I never thought of that. I always thought that if you were in fashion, they would educate you on how to run a boutique, because that's what designers do, right? So I never even thought to go deeper than that. I just made an assumption and then applied it to everyone in this industry.
And it requires a lot to run a business, and I had to learn the hard way. Somehow, like, I'm grateful for my experience, because if I never went through this whole journey, you know, jumping through hoops, learning from workshops, Instagram, this research really couldn't have come up for me. So I feel like, I had to go through the process the hard way so I can come up with a solution for other people so they don't have to. So I'm like, while I was going through, you know, running a business, I didn't even know, like, the first 3 years of my business, I had no idea I was running on a loss, because I didn't know anything about business. I was just passionate. But after 3 years, like, learning that, oh, you actually need a business plan, I was like, oh, okay. Because I started my business when I was 17. I had no idea. I was like, oh, actually, passion cannot always take you places. You have to have knowledge. You have to have education. You have to understand finances, taxes, loans. I'm like, oh, my God. So I started unlearning what I thought I knew about business. And I was like, okay, I have to educate myself. So I could not afford 2 degrees. I could only afford the fashion degree. So the business, I learned it on the street. Graduated from YouTube University.
I love that. Yes, YouTube University. I tell people that all the time. Like, YouTube University. Anything you ever see me do, I guarantee you, if you look at my search history, it most likely done on YouTube. Because you're right. A lot of these kids who are not going to get that marketing, that business education, they're going to have to learn it off the streets from failure, from word of mouth. Somebody's going to tell them in an article somewhere they're going to read. And it's going to be disheartening for them to know that they're running a business at a net negative instead of a positive, because they don't know how to turn their ideas into a cash flow. They know how to design,
which is great. But if you don't know how to commercialize it, it's not going to
hard.
work
And
out.
it's like you have to account for the cost of material, any kind of shipping cost, tax and fees. What's legal? What's not legal? What can you advertise in this location? All of that, patents, ideas. If someone steals your design, how do you go after them? Do you need a legal advisor? Those are questions I now think of. As soon as you said stuff about the business side of it, I was like, you just pushed a rock down a hill. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there are all these
literally,
aspects.
anything you study, we're always trying to sell something. So you have to understand business. And one thing strategic that I did, I really surrounded myself with many people that were not even necessarily from the fashion industry, but my connection was very intentional. I had my first mentor, she's into tech engineering, but she's the person that taught me how to write a business plan. She had that knowledge. I had another mentor that was an accountant, so I learned like accounting for business through her. I had another one that was a lawyer, so I learned law. It was not necessarily fashion law, but I learned that. In grad school, I took, like, among the elective, I took a licensing class, and that's what led me to understand how licensing worked, and then I got the contract with Shein. If I never took that class, I wouldn't have understood what licensing was about, and maybe I would have gotten screwed over. But so I was like doing all this. I learned how to build business credit from Instagram. Just found this random girl, started following her tips, and then after 3 months, already building business credit. So I was like, yeah, I know that, yeah, I want to have somebody who's in the fashion industry, but it does not always take fashion to run a business. You need people from everywhere. So have somebody who is in marketing, in graphic design, in web design, in, like, you know, finance and all these things. So that's also a tip that I always give to my students or my mentees, like, find people who are doing different things outside of what you're doing. If you're maybe like interested in textile, maybe know somebody who knows chemistry, because in textile science, we deal with chemistry. So have that person. If you're interested in physics, maybe you would want to create some crazy design that involve having physics into your design. Like maybe you want to use some tools that have, you know, pieces of your dresses that are flowing. You have to understand physics. So have somebody from engineering or something like that. So that's how I roll. And yeah, it's honestly been amazing, learning, failing, and then starting over, and then winning. So, no.
Oh, girl, trust me.
Yeah.
Every successful person didn't get successful the first time they tried.
Yeah.
It's all about trying and being, you know, aware that failure is not the end of your journey. It is just another door to pivot from, you know.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I too I'm growing myself, because I think of all the different industries I've dipped my toe into. I've had this previous education, this previous experience. How can it help me in my journey now to where I want to be? And with you saying all of that, I'm going to go take home some notes and make sure to go look at what other people in different industries do, because I necessarily won't get that same information if it's been regurgitated so much and hasn't been edited from whenever this started to now. So yeah, you're doing some good work.
Thank you.
And I hate to cut us short, but please tell us, how can we get a hold of you for the audience members?
My Instagram, my business page is Belange Handmade, so BELANGE_handmade. I'm on LinkedIn, Belange Mutunda. My business website is www.shopbhm.com, and my personal portfolio is belangemutunda.com.
You heard it here, people. She gave you the info. I will also attach it to the either the screen or I'll put it down below in the link. But thank you for joining us.
Of course.
No, it was my pleasure.
Oh, no, it was
I
my
learned
pleasure.
something today. And I really love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I hope to see you again this time.
Yes.
Will you be completed with your PhD?
I have 3 credits left.
Super close.
So I'm just working on my completing my qualifying exam, and then after that, continue collecting data, and hopefully, I'm really hoping to finish, if not this fall, next spring. But I'm at the end of my journey in the PhD.
Are you gonna write a book?
Yeah, maybe.
Is she actually put it up?
Yes, I do have a book though on Amazon. It's about entrepreneurship, but I would definitely write about a PhD.
She has a book, people. Go read.